Meanwhile, I'm going to go. And I am going to right now invite you into the world of Jane's psyche. So you might want to.
Yeah, by the way, so this would be a good time to switch to speaker view if you're in gallery view, so that you'll see Jane in a bigger window and see what's going on.
That's in your top right of your screen. I'm going to bring you into the world of my mind. So just warning, you might want to buckle your seatbelts. And here we go. Ooh, cake. I love cake. I want to eat that cake. In fact, I want to eat the whole cake. Jane dear, eating that cake's going to give you a stomach ache. And then you won't be able to sleep at night. And it's not healthy. I don't think you want to eat that cake. I want to eat it, and I am going to. Uh-oh, got to do something about that. Jane, you ignorant slut. This part of me, he used to watch Saturday Night Live. That's where he got the ignorant slut thing. Jane, you ignorant slut. What are you even thinking about eating the whole cake? What's the matter with you? Okay, you guys, chillax. I recognize that it's important to have pleasure. That's an important human need, and I also recognize that health is important. So maybe I'll just have a very small piece of cake. Okay, that's parts within me, but our parts also interact with the parts of other people. So I'll give you how that might look. Ooh, there's my friend Mary Claire. I love Mary Claire. She's my BFF. And last year we went hiking at the Audubon, and it was really fun. Hey, Mary Claire, want to go hiking again this year? Oh, what? You hurt your leg and you can't go hiking? Oh, wait a minute. I'm not really sure I want Mary Claire to see this part of me because, you know, she's a psychotherapist. I'm a psychotherapist. We're kind of colleagues, you know, and that's not very mature. So I won't let her see that. Maybe I'll be like a psychotherapist and I'll be empathic. Oh, Mary Claire, you poor dear. That must hurt so much. That must be ruining your whole life. I'm going to drop everything I'm doing up here at Retribe, and I'm going to drive down to where she lived, Middlebury, and take care of you. Oh, what? Mary Claire, you're saying I'm being over the top goopy? Wait a minute, I don't want her to see that part. And this part didn't work. Maybe this part. Mary Claire, I think you're probably being a little too sensitive. Okay, so if I said this to Mary Claire, she also has parts. So what part of her do you think would be activated by me saying that? Hands. Unmute yourself, call out. What say you, Beth?
Maybe she might, well, she'd probably take offense to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But Mary Claire, she might not want me to see this part. Actually, she probably would because she's very skilled. She's actually a psychotherapist and my friend, and she's very skilled in NVC. But and so she probably would just say, ouch. But if she weren't so skilled, she might then say, well, Jane, that was awfully harsh. To which I would respond, wah. And then I might say, well, Mary Claire, you, and then her wounded child would be activated, and then her inner critic would criticize me, and then my inner child would be activated, and then my inner critic would criticize her, and it would go like this, And this can go on for a very long time, called projective identification. How many people, as a matter of fact, it could go on for infinity, if you turn it on its side. How many people here have that going on with their intimate partners in their life? Yeah. Okay, so those are some parts of me. And when that goes on, I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like when that goes on. I have a little picture here. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. It's very sad. So those are some parts of me. You can see this is sort of the Freudian articulation of parts in a way, the id, the ego, this part's the ego, and then the superego. Or there's other modalities that use parts, multiplicity modalities it's called, like transactional analysis is what these masks are made from. So this is the playful child and the wounded child and the inner adult and the critical parent and the nurturing parent. And so in IFS, it's a little bit more open, and parts can be all kinds of things, roles or whatever. So in a little bit, you're going to be finding your own parts. So I want to give you maybe a little more ideas about parts, and I'll give you some more about my parts. There's a part of me that loves work. And when we bought this land up here, I worked till 10:30 every night for a year and a half. It's my workhorse. And there's another part of me that's a little bit in polarity with that part, which says, Jane, you need some rest. There's a part of me that likes to help people. When I see somebody in pain, I really am motivated to help them because I can, and I don't know why. I call that part my bodhisattva part. It's the bodhisattva vow is I vow to work until all sentient beings are out of suffering forever. And then there's another part of me that says they can all fuck themselves. I'm going to watch Netflix and eat popcorn. There's a part of me that is the teacher part. So you can think of parts in terms of roles. Like right now, my teacher part, she stands tall. She's very nice. She's like, any question is fine. I will be happy to answer any question, no matter how small, because I know everything in the whole world. And she actually has a little friend. This is my inner child. I've named her Braids because when I was young, my hair was down to my knees and was braided every day. And she's always silly and happy, and she likes to do cartwheels because when I was a kid, I could never do cartwheels. I guess I didn't have any legs. I don't know. It's just very klutzy. So now my inner child, where she doesn't walk, so she gets everywhere. She's helpful actually, and to my teacher part, because when there's play, people like the teenagers I work with, when she comes out, they relax and helps people learn. I have my Grandma Jane part. I visualize her a little bit more chubby than this, kind of like Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. She's always like, oh, Bubby, do you need a hug? Do you need a cookie? Okay, so those are some of my, I can't forget this part. This is a very important part. She's my badass part. Don't mess with me. She sets boundaries. She says, that's not okay with me. And she'll make a demand. If you do this, I'm going to do this. She's badass. Okay. You might have parts similar to that. You might have parts that are different. So the thing with parts, before you do IFS, they sort of live behind you. And they come in and then they drive your car for a while. Eat the whole cake. Don't eat the whole cake. And when they take over your car, in IFS, that's called blending, when they blend with you and you're just acting out of that part. We seem to be under the illusion that we are that part. We identify with the part. But when we do the work of IFS, we turn and look at the part. Oh, there's my eat the whole cake part. And we sort of bring it more into consciousness. There's my don't eat the whole cake part. And now our parts are more in front of us and we're more conscious of them. And it becomes a process where when they kind of unblend from us, we have a little bit of space and we can see them. We begin more and more to be able to experience something that is talked about in IFS as the self. So here's all the parts, but there's something that's there all the time and is witnessing the parts as they come and go. I know about this part, I know about this part. And this is what's called the self. It doesn't have drama. It doesn't have beliefs and like emotions and all, it's motivations. It's just awareness. And so you can see that this process of IFS, when taken down the road, it moves from psychology. Psychology is your feelings and your beliefs and your actions and your desires and your motivations, all the parts of you. And it becomes something more spiritual. So it's the move from psychology to spirituality where you're experiencing yourself. There's a Buddhist nun, her name's Pema Chodron, you might have read her stuff. And she said that egolessness, or like enlightenment, is a fluid identity. Parts are coming in and out, but you're not identifying with them as you. Okay. Take it away, Ted.
All right. So hopefully, and I know some of you are already familiar with this model, but if not, hopefully you're getting a sense of one aspect of IFS and maybe the sort of the center tenet, which is that we're all a collection of various parts. And, as Jane said, there's other models as well that honor that. Here, all right. No, not that. Okay. And they'll use different terms for these parts, right? So subpersonalities, ego states, schemata, internal objects, as Jane mentioned, the Freudian concepts of ego, superego, and id, and co-energetics. We talk about higher self, lower self, and mass. So it's not controversial that it's helpful to see people as a collection of parts. IFS is different than some of these in that we really honor the presence of self, as Jane was saying, and the importance of self in the system. So I can't see you all with the screen share, but I'll assume that you've read these. These are the definitions that we sent. And so we'll just go through them really quickly. So self, as Jane was saying, our essence. And there's a transpersonal aspect of self. This is sort of when we're all connected, it's all the same thing. Self-energy it's all the same for all of us. But then there's these personal qualities, and they made up these 8 C words, and then there's some other words too that sort of evoke qualities of self. And then there's parts. So there's self and parts that we've just been looking at in the cartoon and in Jane and those masks. So there's 2 kinds of parts, exiles and protectors. And exiles are really the parts that hold the trauma, that are stuck in these scenes from the past, that carry these feelings that are very intense, and that to the protectors are dangerous. So the protectors have taken on the job of keeping us safe from those exiles. When we were little, it was necessary. That's kind of how we got through childhood, is by not feeling that stuff. As an adult, we all have enough self to hold space for these exiles and welcome them and feel them. It's like what Jung called the shadow, right? We're really capable of witnessing and facing all this, and it's just that the protectors need to be updated to understand that and know that we can handle it. 2 kinds of protectors, managers and firefighters. managers are proactive, firefighters are reactive, basically. So they're similar in that they're really trying to do the same job. Burden is a concept, because people often want to get rid of bad stuff or bad feelings, and as a result, they're trying to suppress or get rid of a part. That's why they're exiled. In IFS, we welcome the part, but we can get rid of their burdens. And the burdens could be like an intense feeling. That's just an overwhelming feeling. It could be a belief. And for the protectors, it's the job they took on to keep us safe from the exile. So they can release these burdens. And, IFS was developed with someone who's a shamanic practitioner. So it includes some shamanic techniques to do this stuff. Blend, as Jane was saying, the part kind of takes over. Polarity is something, if we have time at the end, we'll get into more, but basically we come equipped with parts that can pull in different directions, right? So a part maybe, like Jane was saying, the part that says eat the cake, so that part is all about the pleasure of the moment, and then another part that's all about being healthy and feeling good tomorrow or in an hour. And so those parts will pull us, right, in different directions, and that's a polarity. But when they get extreme, when they're carrying burdens, and when these protectors have taken on the job of making sure we never feel the exile, they get polarized and start to fight with each other. So a big part of IFS is harmonizing the system and helping these parts get along more. Basically, they just go, I think we should eat the cake. And the other part goes, I don't think we should. And then Jane makes the decision and they go, okay. So that's sort of how we want to end up, not this constant fighting over whether to eat the cake or not. And then finally, a trailhead is just a way into the system. So it's, something happens and you have a feeling and it's uncomfortable, and you can use that, if you're curious, to sort of see, wow, what part just got triggered here? And it's a way to get to know parts we might not see otherwise. So any questions about all that? By the way, if you have a quick thing to say or ask, if you're on a computer, just hold down your space bar and talk. And you don't have to find your mute and unmute button. Or comments.
I have a question, Ted. So are you looking to it's Mike, by the way. Are you looking to identify these at different moments? Do you have all of these at one time? Like, what is the purpose of it?
Kind of yes to all of it. And without this approach, we're identified with each different part. And they swing us, they lead us in different directions. There's no consistency. But recognizing the parts and keeping that distance allows us to lead from self, right? So if my critical part is telling me what's wrong with me, if I don't see it as a part, it just feels true. When I can see it as a part, then I have the option of going, okay, well, my critic is telling me this. I can do what I want with it. And it helps me stay in the driver's seat.
So it's to help understand an aspect of self, just not your pure self?
Pure self. Yeah, it's hard with definitions, isn't it? Because this word self has a lot of different meanings. We see self as being all of it, like the pure self, the transcendent self, the larger self, where we're all one, that self, but also these sort of useful and helpful qualities as well. I'm not sure I'm answering your question, so please continue to push it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's moving me forward. So it's not that any of these are right or wrong, just so you could recognize it?
Yeah, I don't think right or wrong comes into it. I do think there's parts, when they blend, they will get us to do things that are destructive or not helpful. So not to say they're wrong, but if we can make another choice, one of the unresolved philosophical questions is there free will? And I think if you look at a person this way, you might say, well, when my parts are running the show, no, they're compelled to make me do these things, and there's nothing I can do about it. But when they can separate back, and I can take a breath and sort of center in self, then I can actually choose a course of action.
And are some of them, I mean, the protector or the manager, some of these are very useful when you're in that part?
All the parts have something to bring us. And yes, we need the parts to function in the world. So yes, when they're in a healed state, a non-extreme state, an unburdened state, the parts help us a lot. It's only when they have to get a certain job done so that we don't feel the exile that they end up making decisions for us to end up being not good decisions.
And are you going to be getting into how, like, if you're in one part or someone else is another part, how you communicate with those things?
Maybe not here. I think normal boundaries would apply. So just like you don't want to tell somebody else what they're feeling, it might be a little rude to say, that's your angry part, or that's your, this part. So I think we tend to honor the boundary, and that each person is the expert on what's happening within them with their parts.
Yeah. Well, I was helping my wife cook in the kitchen before, so I identified some parts. So I was just curious about that. All right. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah. Co-cooking definitely opens trailheads, doesn't it?
Hey, Jen, did you identify any parts of him?
Oh, plenty.
Okay.
I have a
We
question.
can laugh about it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question about a comment you made about the person that founded this or developed this. What did you say his name was? And then you said there are shamanic techniques that go along with this. So
Yeah.
I've done some of this with you, Ted, and I want to do some more. But what shamanic stuff is it? Because I do some shamanic stuff myself, and I just want to see how that comes into this.
Sure. I think this is worth everybody hearing. So, when you learn how to conduct IFS sessions, you learn a bunch of maneuvers and protocol and techniques, I guess. And so, by the way, so Dick Schwartz is the guy who came up with this idea and the model, Richard Schwartz. And then he had this friend named Michi Rose, and she helped kind of develop the steps of the model. So some examples. I'll really quickly kind of give you a quintessential session, right? So somebody comes in, they have a protector that's causing a trouble, right? It's an addiction. They're yelling at their kids, right? It takes over, and then another part of them doesn't like it, and then they decide, I got to do something about this. So we get to know this protector, we befriend it, we make sure all the parts that don't like it leave the room, because obviously parts aren't going to like these parts that are causing problems, but it's best for them not to be around while we talk to it. And then we ask the part, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't do this? Like, what if you didn't drink when you got home? What if your kid did that thing and you didn't do anything about it? Then what would you be feeling? And that reveals an exile. Then we start to get to know the exile. We may ask the exile, does it want to show us some scenes from the past where it's having this difficult feeling? So let's say the dad who's yelling at his kid, he might go, oh, I just would feel helpless and powerless. Like my kids would just do whatever they want and there's nothing I can do. So that would be an exile. We get to know that, where you feel it in your body. Any other way we can flesh out this part, really get to know it. We go back into the past, and the part might talk about how, yeah, I'm in my room and my dad is a little crazy and I'm out of control. And so then some of the shamanic stuff happens where self can go back in time and intervene in a scene like this. So we can rewrite that history, rewrite that memory. We can retrieve parts from the past. So it's sort of like a soul retrieval, but we can bring the part back into the present, from where it was stuck in these traumatic scenes. We can ask it, does it want to unburden? And we can do that into an element like fire or water, right? So the part can release its intense feeling or beliefs. So that's a shamanic move. We can ask the part, would it like to reclaim any qualities that it lost back there? Like, could be confidence or, calm or something like that. And the parts can just sort of breathe in these qualities. So that's, again, another kind of shamanic maneuver. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. Got it. I see now.
So I'm wondering, how do you, or how do I pause and recognize those parts and be able to identify them? Because, I feel like I'm just so busy doing that the part comes up and I haven't even noticed. It's already had 3 conversations, maybe more, and I missed it all.
What do you think, Jane?
That's what we're going to do in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is going to be more about awareness. It's about practice. It's about sort of committing to this model, and even in how we talk, instead of saying, I'm angry, like I feel an angry part, or like, you did this wrong. Wow, part of me feels critical of you. So just a willingness to shift the perspective that way. And then also, based on what you said, it might be interesting to get to know a part of you that always wants to get things done, or that's busy, that kind of keeps you moving quickly. And get to know that part and see what that part's afraid would happen if it slowed down. Lots of possibilities. So what do you think, Jane? Should we see another video?
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So at a retreat a while back, Ted led us through a meditation, the path, one of Dick Schwartz's meditations. And then I asked more about that, and Ted recommended that I go to the IFS website, and I bought this like maybe 10 or 12 meditations that Dick Schwartz leads you through. And so I've been trying to do one of those every morning, and like that has helped me kind of, it's like my own little therapy session every morning. Like I feel like I'm doing my work to get to know my part, but it's like, it leads you through like find this trailhead and then like figure out what's going on. And then like once you kind of let go of that burden, it allows that self energy to come up, and then like kind of meditate and be on that. And that has helped me be so much more grounded and like more aware when parts come up during the day. Like, oh yeah, that's that part that came up in meditation the other morning, kind of thing.
That's a great idea. I know that he's just got onto Insight Timer, so that he has some meditations there, but I don't think he's got as many as you're talking about.
Yeah, this was a CD that Ted recommended, so I just bought the CD.
I missed that CD or whatever she was saying she did. What is that?
I think it's called Meditations for Self. Is that right, Deanna? So the second page of the attachment with the definitions has some books on it and also their website. And if you go there, you can just tool around and you'll find all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Today we're going to just focus on identification of parts because it's sort of the first step of IFS, but then there's a lot deeper that you can go with parts, you know, in therapy sessions or other workshops and stuff. I think that a video would be really nice right now.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't hit my quota this year, and it's like, I want to go to the Greek islands.
Yeah, no, I know exactly how that feels. Do you ever have that feeling when you have to make a hard decision or just like do something you really don't want to do but know you should, and it's like all of a sudden you turn into a 4-year-old and you just want to throw a temper tantrum, and basically you have to negotiate with your 4-year-old self? Or you just wish that you could go back to being a teenager and having 0 responsibility. Or fast forward and just be an old lady who has all of her shit figured out. Because this being an adult thing is really hard and just sucks most of the time. And it's just difficult to not be hard on yourself. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Do you want to take shots?
Yep.
I think we should take shots. Can we have 2 shots, please?
This is fun.
Oh, it just blacked out. Blacked out for a minute.
I'm not getting that.
But you want it.
I know I do. I'm not getting it.
But you want it. You did the yoga. You need ice cream. You want ice cream.
Look, if I get that ice cream, I'm gonna eat the whole thing, and then I'm gonna get all hopped up on sugar, and I'm gonna wake up in the morning with a sugar hangover, and my pants aren't gonna fit, and I'm not gonna do that.
You won't eat the whole thing. You will only eat a little bit. Please. You've been so good. Please.
Hey, I am not getting it. Get it together.
You get it together and buy me some fucking ice cream.
How about we get some dark chocolate? Huh? That's delicious.
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
Sort of. Just, you get so many emotions. You should numb them.
How about we get on Tinder?
Ooh. Boys, boys, boys. I love boys. All kinds of boys. Boys, boys, boys.
All right. There's a person dealing with her part in a way. So just to give you a little more about IFS, and then Jane will talk a little bit about some goals of the therapy. There's some of the assumptions of the model. So as we're saying, it's natural that the mind is subdivided into these parts. Everyone has a self that can be the leader of the system. All the parts are trying to do something positive, and they have something positive to do when they're not forced into an extreme role. There's no bad parts, so we just help them serve us better. We don't get rid of them. And what happens is, all these parts, as things are playing out, each one has a consequence, and another part then takes on a role to deal with that. So it can get a little convoluted, and often in the therapy, we're just sort of unraveling the system and kind of opening things up and opening the door for self-energy. And then as people sort of harmonize more internally, they tend to bring that harmony into their external system, into their surroundings.
So when we're working with our parts, where we're trying to have balance and harmony within the system of the parts, hopefully with the self-leading, to help the parts release their burdens, that's their beliefs and emotional pain, so that they can find their roles in the system that are helpful. to differentiate and release the self, separate the self from the part so we can experience self. When self is in the lead, it respects input from the parts. So it's important to have pleasure. It's important to be healthy, who in turn respect the self to effectively lead the decision. I'm just going to have a small piece of cake. And then the parts allow me to lead. And then when external system, meaning like what Mike was saying, other people, when I have more self-energy, then I can bring that self-energy out and affect the interactions with other people.
So a question, in fact, this is the first question I asked Dick, and I hear it now and then, is do you see these parts as being real, or are they just metaphors? And, you know, due to recent medical advances, we actually have the answer to that question.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. All right, so we're gonna go ahead now and start trying to find our own parts. So you already probably have some ideas just from what's been happening so far. And so I'm gonna maybe give you a little bit more direction on how to find your own parts. Actually, I might take a minute just to note that this movie, Inside Out, that we saw the cartoon from in the beginning, it portrayed parts as actually emotions, or portrayed emotions as parts. So like my anger is a part, my happiness is a part. But for me, I don't really see it that way, because my cake eating part is happy when I eat cake, but it's mad when I don't eat cake. So it's a little bit different from that movie. I think one of the IFS people, Frank Anderson, is working with the movie company and might be moving it around a little bit for the next movie that's coming out. Anyway, so here's some ways to find your part. You might, sometimes people say, oh, I can't believe, oh yes, Deanna?
Sorry, hey, the spacebar trick is really cool. Thanks, Ted. I just wondered if I could rewind a little bit. I'm wondering if we have time to talk more about how the brain is divided into parts. What?
How the brain is divided into parts? You mean like how I talk about the 4 parts of the brain?
Well, I meant like how Ted was saying that like there's a question of whether or not parts are a metaphor or whether or not they're real. And
he was just tongue-in-cheeking it. That's my brother's always making
that's not real. Oh, Ted.
No, the thing is, he just keeps such a straight face. I'm so used to it from our whole life, but yeah.
I totally believe that. But that's interesting. I wonder if different parts of your brain light up when different parts are activated.
I believe so. Yeah. It's
Can you talk into that? Yeah, I'd like to know, please.
Well, could I give an example? I think, and it's relevant to what Jane was talking about with the cake, right? So, you know, we talked briefly about polarity and polarization, and one typical one then, like if you really go, in essence, what is this struggle about? Should I eat the cake or not? And it's about, should I feel good now or should I feel good later? And I think we have parts that just are going to direct us to have some pleasure now. And we have other parts that are going to direct us to do things that are going to make our life better later. And probably every day we have to make these calls over and over again. Now, for many of us, layered on top of that is like a critical part that takes the side of the feel good later, and then a rebellious part that takes the side of feel good now. But if you can work with them and they can relax back, your basic polarity is feel good now or feel good later. And, you know, feel good later is, I think that's in the left brain, right? I think only in the left brain is there a future. Because you can't feel the future, it's a cognitive construct. And I think these parts live there, and they are all about the future. And I've tried talking to the parts, you know, that want to feel good now and saying, well, we don't want to eat that cake because we want to feel good in the future. And they'll go, okay. And it's like, what's the future? So it's like in that part of your brain, there's just no future. And it makes no sense to them why you wouldn't eat the cake.
You can also look at it as the prefrontal cortex, or the executive function part of your brain, the most recently evolved or most evolved part of your brain, has these more mature qualities of emotional regulation and decision-making, planning, impulse control, where then the parts that might be like rage part would be in a different part of the brain. Or if you have a compulsive part, that's in your caudate nucleus, or, so you could, I think that you could take the qualities of a part and see where it's functioning in the brain. Okay, so here's some other ways of finding parts you can look at. If you say, I beat myself up about that, then you're finding one part of you is beating and one part of you is getting beat. So right there, you got two parts, maybe your inner critic and your inner child. You can look at where you're in conflict with yourself. So when you're trying to make a decision, one part of me wants to da-da-da, one part of me wants to da-da-da, and then now you've identified two parts. You can look at a love-hate relationship with somebody. One part of me loves her, one part of me wants to wring her neck. So there's two parts. You can look at your roles, parts that come out to help you do a function, the grandma part of me or the teacher part of me. I think we all have an inner child in there somewhere who loves to have fun. There's also the firefighters that Ted was talking about, that are any addiction that we have. I need to feel really good now. I actually had a fire in my house and they came and just drenched my house with water. It was like, get the fire out now, deal with the rest later. And I have also some other parts that are common that you might identify with yourself. Some people have a part that is anxious all the time. Some people have a part that's just a big depressed cloud of bleh. Some people have a part that's just like that all the time and has too much energy and blah, 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 blah. And maybe they get yelled at and then they have a part that holds the shame of that. Some people have a dissociative part. I'm out of here. Some people have a raging part. This part needs no explanation. Some people have a part that is afraid that everybody's judging them all the time. What are they thinking of me? Some people have a part that is a people pleaser. What do you want me to do? I'll do it. Sometimes we have parts that we can't even tell what they are. They're like so deep in there that we're just like, we just have this like disgust part, way in shadow. These parts we really want to find and help. We also have really nice parts. We have like wise parts that are kind, and parts, we have manager parts that, this is my to-do list part, make a to-do list, keep it together, put it on your calendar, clean up the house, get it together. These parts are very helpful. Okay, so those are examples of some parts. And now we're gonna have some time for you to identify your own parts. And we're gonna stay in the main group for 5 minutes or so that you can ask questions if you need to while you are trying to find your own parts. And then we'll get in triads and you could work with two other people to identify parts and then share with each other. So when you identify a part, what you want to do is you might want to name it, is to keep track. And then you have some kind of art form that you brought, either index cards, pieces of paper. There's the shift form you could fill out. You might want to just fill it out a little bit, otherwise it'll take too long. You could use dolls like I do. Whatever art, you might have a big piece of paper that you want to draw on, anything you want to do. You want to identify, what does this part do? What does this part say to you? What do you feel when that part is in your body? Things like that. And put that on your art form. And once you've got to know one part, go ahead and find another part and keep going until you've found, I don't know, 4 or 5 parts. You might even look at the relationship between the parts. Does somebody who's friends, you know, like my teacher and my little girl are friends, who might be protecting someone else? Find those polarities. Yeah, so we'll do that for like 5 minutes or so. You could just go ahead and ask us questions as you're working, and then we'll break you guys into groups.
Jane, can you repeat the questions, please?
Yes, so you might want to make a name for the part. Figure out, what does it do? It rages or whatever. Figure out, what does it tell you? Like your inner critic in particular. You suck. You should do this. I want to eat cake. What do you feel when that part is in your body? And see about the relationships between the parts once you get some of them.
So you might not have all of those. Some people relate more kinesthetically, so they're very in tune with how it feels in their body when a part is present. Some people are more visual. They can draw pictures of their parts, and the part looks like a certain cartoon character or something. Some people are more auditory with their parts, where those other two don't happen, but they can hear like what the part is trying to tell them.
Whatever works for you. Another thing you can do is see what parts are active right now in your body, which you could do just be like, what am I feeling right now? What are the thoughts that are going through my head right now? And sometimes you can identify parts that are active at the moment.
Are we using the sheet, Jane?
Yeah, use whatever you like. Index card, piece of paper.
No, but like you gave a sheet that has all the questions on it.
Oh yeah, so you might just use that to one piece of paper for each part and just name it and see what it looks like. You know, the only problem with that, I've seen people go really into depth with one part, but you might want to just go a little bit, fill the rest out later so that you could get to 4 or 5 parts in the next 5 minutes or so.
Is the work in the triad going to be recorded, or is that going to be private? Okay,
private. Since there aren't questions, maybe Ted, you could go ahead and do some triads, and you could finish up your finding your own parts within the triads. And then I'm going to be sending some little messages, so make sure you watch for them, just so that we keep our timing together. So at first, just you'll be together, finish your own, and then I'll send a message for the first person to share about what parts they found, and then I'll send another message for the second person to go, and then after the third person goes, we'll come back in.
All right, so Zoom's going to do this automatically, so don't blame us if you hate the people in your room.
Your sharing is going to be like 3 minutes. So
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
I'm wondering, I was just like looking at one of my parts, and how do you separate a part from the self? Like, is there a key? Something?
The part is what you're looking at, and the self is sort of contentless. The self is the part that is, it's not a part, it's just the awareness of the part. So if you're looking at it, it's part. That makes sense. Sometimes we have self-like parts, right? Like her, she's very self-like. I love you, Alona.
Well, I'm wondering, like, if I'm identifying a part that's like calms everything down and says like everything is okay and like don't worry about this, accept everyone, is that a part or a self?
I personally would call it a part. I think IFS would probably call it self. So you might have to figure for yourself. It's that kind of crossover. I would call it a self-like part, but it also is like, yeah, this is why I do this. See this, you could think of that as your personal self, and then the spiritual self channels through this personal self-like part. So think of it how you like.
But a part that calms other parts down, I mean, that would be a part. And one way to know the difference is that self first fully embraces the part, feels it. There's no no kind of compulsion to fix it or quiet it down. It's just witnessing. Later, self might provide some reassurance and comfort. But when the parts do it, they just jump in and try to talk the parts out of what they're feeling. Saying, "Oh, it's okay. You can feel better." Over time, you just feel the difference. When you're really coming from self, you'll feel it in your body. Your heart's open, your breathing's open. You just feel centered and grounded.
So I just kind of want to make sure I'm doing this right. So like the part that I grabbed a hold of was an anxiety feeling. Is that a part?
The part that brings anxiety into your body?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trying to help you. Can you feel how?
I don't even know if it's helping, but right now it's telling me that this is really scary. Me being here in this meeting with everyone, because it's not something I've ever done before.
Mm-hmm. So can you feel what its motivation is and how it's trying to help you?
Its motivation is probably my fear of meeting new people and doing things that involve me meeting new people like this. When I found the retreat back in January or February, I think, I was like, there's no way I could possibly do this, for 4 days. But I got to a point where I was really looking forward to it. And even though we're not, all physically together in the same space, this is still very anxiety producing for me.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have a part that puts anxiety in your body to keep you from experiencing something painful that it's afraid will happen in the group. And I'm not sure what that is, but maybe that part would tell you how it's what it's protecting you from.
Mm-hmm.
You're noticing that part. There's another part of you that said, but I want to go to the workshop for some reason.
Yes. Yeah, that part, it was a very small voice in the beginning. Like I kept, checking out the retreat for the better part of probably 2 or 3 weeks, and like would always like start, you know, fill out the form and then just be about to hit submit and be like, no, you know, just, you
So
know.
you've got your polarity now, the part that wants to grow and heal and all that, have fun, and then the part of you that's afraid of something is protecting you. So they became in a polarity and you went back and forth. So great, you're on a great start. You've got 2 parts that you can start to get to know.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Want to put everyone in triads, Ted?
All right, so we're gonna divide you up, and then we'll be dropping in to your little breakout rooms. And a part of me wants to ask you when I show up, don't go, "What are you doing here? Get away! We don't want you here." So just speaking for that part. Here we go.
Also in your chat bar, I put some of the list of questions you might ask about each part if you want to use that.
Oh, perfect.
You might have to join the breakout room, like accept it.
I think, Jane, you got put into a room?
5.
Okay, so you could handle that as you see fit.
So we can pop around between rooms.
That's the idea.
All right, let's see what time it is. It's 3:06, so we're like a little bit behind, but not much.
Okay.
You guys in rooms? Or are we in your room? Okay, I'm getting out of here. Goodbye.
In Vermont?
Hi.
No, I'm
Hi,
asking, where's
Jane.
Hickory?
You went away. What'd you say, Deanna?
Where's Hickory? What state?
It's North Carolina, so it's like an hour down the mountain from Ted in Asheville.
Oh, nice. I live in New Jersey.
Good.
I live in Vermont. What parts did you guys find?
Who wants to be? You want to be first, or you want me to go first? I don't care.
I don't care either.
I'll go. I'm bossy. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm controlling, peaceful, love, calm, organized, and manifest things.
Those are different parts for you?
Yep.
Ah.
Just today. As I watched myself today.
Cool. I'm going to pop around between rooms just to make sure everybody knows.
We only have 2. Is that how many we're supposed to have? Which I'm cool with 2.
Yeah, now you get to talk longer.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Bye.
You could describe your parts.
Okay, so I'm dealing with this really like tough work situation right now. So I identified my parts around that, which
5. Oh, I can't move. Hey, I can only go to breakout room 5 basically because I don't have, you did it, so I can't move anything.
Oh. Okay, then I can move you. You're not joined, so move to, you're a co-host. You should be able to do this. What room do you want to be in? I just went to 2.
I went to 5 and you went to 2, so let's check out the 2 more of the rooms so that we can.
You want to go to 1 or 3 or 4?
I'll go to 1. Where are you going?
I'll go to 3.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
So there's one part of me that wants to be a hermit and leave society and disengage with all of the bullshit in society. There's another part of me that wants to rule the world and instill law and order. There's another part of me that wants to travel forever and live nomadically. There's another part of me that wants to have a family. There's another part of me that wants to own land, build natural structures and art, engage with nature, and create a food forest. There's another part of me that wants to build an interfaith community. There's another part of me that wants to be respected by others for the work I've done.
Awesome. So the parts that I've kind of written down here are my anxious part, obviously. And then I also have a very angry part that, you know, every tiny little pet peeve that I have, you know, it could come from somebody not using a blinker while they're driving to something as simple as someone's teeth hitting a fork when they're, you know, eating food. I also have my very OCD part, which comes from my obsessive compulsive disorder, where I, you know, will go into cleaning tangents so deep that I'm taking the Q-tip to the top of the footboards.
You want to go somewhere else?
I could go to 4, but the third person already should be sharing. Have you been broadcasting? Because I can't broadcast. I just typed.
No, I haven't.
I typed a chat in that said third person should be sharing about now, but maybe you could put that in, say finish up everybody in 3 minutes or something.
So what I say, you should be at your third person by now.
Yeah, I already said that, but
Should be
maybe to
hearing.
say we're going to end in 2 minutes or something like that. We'll be ending in 2 to 3 minutes.
All right, and then should I send you to room 4?
Sure. And then don't forget to end it in 3 minutes because I can't.
Okay.
See ya.
Identify any other parts?
We're back.
Hey,
Hi, Jane.
You guys finding your parts?
Some.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I like the way you identified parts, not by, oh, this is my manager part, or this is my exile part, or whatever. You were like, this is the eating the cake part.
Yeah. Were you guys able to, we're going to end in like 2 minutes. So I want to make sure you were able to find parts and share them with each other.
Yes, we shared.
Oh, good, good. Now we're in
Yeah,
chit chat time. Yay.
more than me. So
I'll join you in chit chat anytime.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
this is fun.
Mary Ellen, did you have any other parts you wanted to add?
is anger a part?
Yeah.
Okay. Anger. Anger. That's today, not from this. Should I be only identifying parts that I'm feeling while we're doing this? Tell me, I don't know.
Oh,
Jane.
in your life, the parts that are active in your life that
Anger.
Yeah.
And the reason, well, the feeling is pressure. And the function is to motivate me to get what my needs met as I re-enter the workforce. Because believe it or not, they're fighting back about my requirement for masks in my office when I go back to work. So that happened within the last 2 days. So right now I'm angry about, are those the right answers? I don't know.
Yeah, you have an anger part that's making sure to meet your need for safety. That sounds
okay.
Human to me.
I'm trying, honestly, I'm confused. So this is how I'm really trying to grasp this concept.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
I have that part. Do you have it, Connie, too?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Judy, I'm sure you do.
Yep.
Hit it in there somewhere. What other parts did you guys find?
Connie, do you want to go? She had all drawings. She was really organized.
I did. This is my exile. This is my manager.
Wow.
Look, it's even typed.
This is the critic, who's unhappy all the time. This is the activist. Woo! And then this was, I did this after you mentioned it, the Bodhisattva.
I'm feeling apart, embarrassed for being so
unprepared. There you
go. Oh, so you have an inner critic telling you that you did something that we won't like.
Look at her. She's so, everything is organized and out there, and she identified it, and here I'm like, okay, I don't even know if it's a part.
It's hard to have an inner critic that compares you when you have someone like Connie around.
I don't begrudge Connie. I admire Connie. I admire you, Connie.
So that would be an inner critic, right?
Yes, that tells her, is telling Mary Ellen, you should be as something as Connie is.
Get it together.
Get it together.
Get it together.
Yeah.
So do we need to put labels to these afterwards, or can we just accept that, like this one's my curious part? Or should I be trying to take that further and say, okay, now, well, it fits into this particular category or that category?
Well, it's nice to ask the questions about that part. So to get to know the part and bring it from subconscious to conscious, like, oh, what does the curious part do? What need is it trying to meet? Oh, it's trying to meet my need for learning. And what does it say to me? Oh, I wonder about that. What do I feel in my body? So you're really deeply getting to know that curious part. And you take another one and you get to know that deeply. And then in your life, you start going, oh, my curious part's up. Oh, my angry part's up. You start to notice them in front of you instead of.
Oh, so basically when my curious part comes up, then my critical part comes up too and goes, there you go again.
Curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah. So actually, it's very interesting. I haven't thought about how you can notice two different parts having conversations at the same time.
Yes, exactly. So that's a polarity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah, your inner critic is concerned about your curious part going too far, because then what will happen?
Well, because then I'm just dabbling in too many things and I'm not sticking with something and I'm not doing it. I may not do it well, and then I may not follow through with it. And it does a really good job.
Yeah. So it's concerned about your sanguine temperament. Yeah. That up online. The temperament. Sanguine split like they're wearing wings, and though they start, they never finish any.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And different aspects like that are stronger or less strong in different people, right? Like I'm more of an Eeyore. You're more of like the piglet type. That's sanguine.
Interesting.
Some people are more like Tigger. Their Tigger part comes out all the time.
Well, sometimes my family says I am like Tigger. They're like, oh, run, she's coming.
Oh!
That's when I slept really well. Then I'm high energy.
Cool. We have a lot of parts. We're going back to the main room, it looks like.
Yep.
I'm going to pop in.
Or jump out of the hole in the screen.
All right.
We all back?
So wait, Mike and Jen, are you two married?
Yes.
Are you sitting across from each other in the same room?
No, she's in another. She's upstairs. I'm downstairs.
Okay. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, oh, they happen to have the same last name and have similar wall colors.
My daughter came to our teen retreat.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and she loved it, and she wants to go to the next one.
Yeah, my partner can't stop talking about Retribe. And I think you know him, Jane. Bronislaw Gralla.
Do you, Ted?
Mm-mm.
No?
Like, say his name again?
Bronislaw Gralla. No?
Why don't we move on? And
Yeah.
any questions that came up from that little exercise that you want to throw out?
I thought it was interesting that the concept of parts, there's, once you start to grasp it a little bit, you start to feel like there's a lot of different parts to just go through and understand. So it's almost like, you start saying, oh, there's this one part, and oh, okay, well, let me explore this other part. So I feel like identifying and exploring those parts, I feel there's a lot of freedom, I think on the other side of that.
Mm. Yeah. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if people have polarities they might share with us. And one part wants one thing, one part wants another.
Well, I had the one that I shared with you earlier, which was that I have a curious part. And so that part wants to keep learning and finding out about this, that, and the other, and then going down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole. And then I have the critical judging part that goes, oh, there you're going again. What are you thinking? Here we go. Why are you doing this? It's not going to work. You're not going to stick to it. So I have a lot of conversations like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go on two, extreme different parts would be like anger and frustration. And then once I do some release work around that, I mean, my goal is always like, I want to be peace, love, and calm, you know? And yeah, so it's kind of.
There's an epic battle.
Yeah.
Anybody else have polarities?
I have a polarity between a part of me that wants to like say like fuck everything, I just want to lay in bed and eat some food and watch Netflix or whatever, and the other part that's like always like you have to be productive all the time, otherwise it's like a big waste of time, not going to do anything. Yeah, like those are the two
Does
parts.
anybody else have that polarity going inside of them?
62 years worth.
I have my introvert extrovert polarity, which I think I kind of touched on when I asked my question about with the group before we pieced off. You know, part of me wants to, you know, go out after work, you know, go to a random cafe and sit and drink and, you know, maybe talk with, you know, random people. And the other part of me that usually wins is no, just go home and hang out, you know, with the animals.
Yeah, I had a polarity of parts where I think like pretty much all my parts are I have many polarities in my parts, but one that is most pressing in my life right now is like there's a part of me that just wants to travel forever and live nomadically and not need to own anything more than my essential needs, and then there's another part of me that wants to start working towards getting my own property so I can like build my own gardens and create natural structures and work with the land.
Yeah, so kind of the art of living maybe in self-leadership is that we hear from all of these parts and we respect them all and value them all. And then it's just like if you had a bunch of kids who wanted to go different places for dinner, you come up with a solution that all of them can be okay with. And that's a good decision, right? If you make a decision that all your parts can consent to, it's a good decision. And what we want to move away from is when one part gets in the driver's seat and commits to an action, and then the next day the other part goes, I can't believe we did that. That's sort of the absence of self-leadership.
Ted, I have a question. At what point, though, you know, somebody might have a part that's so driven by, you know, subconscious programming or anchors or belief systems that until you dissipate the charge of that, it sounds easier said than done, I feel. So is there a point that you know, you could realize, you know, that you have this part of you that feels, you know, I don't know, victimness or something, and that might be anchored from, you know, childhood trauma. It might be anchored from abuse of some kind, and I'm asking. It sounds easy, like identify the part and don't let it drive, but that thing is a very deep program driver. I mean, yeah. At what time do you know, and maybe it's a process of breath work or something that releases, and then these different selves, you know, parts of you will then be different, right? They'll be, you know, uncharged. So that's what I'm trying to figure out with this process here.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because sometimes we can make the mistake of implying that all this is about is telling parts to step aside so that we can do the right thing. And it really doesn't work that way. If a protector is burdened, if it really believes that you can't handle the exile underneath, it won't step aside. It doesn't matter what you tell it. And that's the work, right? And if there's been a lot of trauma in someone's history, they may have to do this work for quite a while. But once you can be with the exile underneath the protector will calm down. And it'll still want what it wants, but it will understand that there needs to be compromise all the time, and it's going to get some of what it wants and not all of what it wants.
And it also, the protector will realize that the exile, that little part of you that's holding all that pain, that it doesn't quite need to protect it so much, because it's okay if you yourself connects with that little part, and all of those emotions can flow through your body, which I'm teaching how to do that tomorrow, if you want to join that. But so it's basically allowing the emotions that's the unburdening of the exile. And then the protector doesn't have such a big job to do, and the protector can go sit on a beach chair and drink a margarita.
So I know it's 3:30. Can I just share one more point, and then we'll come back for final questions before we stop? So, some of you were asking about how do you know the difference between self and parts, and here in one of the breakouts, I was saying, well, self will fully embrace and welcome any part and witness it, whereas parts try to maybe talk them out of what they're feeling, in the name of helping them. And there's a difference between this therapy and cognitive therapy, because cognitive therapy, you're right away trying to correct, dysfunctional thoughts and irrational beliefs. So here we first would really validate the part that's feeling what it's feeling, and have some slides just to illustrate that. Some of you probably seen these, but maybe in a different context. So just for example, right, so exiles can believe things or feel things that we might think they don't make sense, but in their world they do. So here's some examples. Here's a part who's really upset because she keeps dropping her fork. And if you're a cognitive therapist, you might say, well, why don't you take those things off your hand, and then maybe you wouldn't drop the fork. But she doesn't want to take them off her hand, so she's upset. She should just be validated. Like, this guy, he's upset. He doesn't want to share his leg hole. We need to just honor that. She's not allowed to have any more. I mean, we can all relate to that one, I guess, unless you're a vegetarian. So this guy, I can't fix his cracker. I mean, the truth is that cracker will never be whole again through eternity. So, we wouldn't want to minimize the trauma of that for him. That's how he feels about it. This guy doesn't want to go, even though we've repeatedly told him we're not going anywhere. Okay, that's how he feels.
Wait, are you saying these exiles are not logical?
They're not logical, but they don't have to be. And we need to just accept how they feel. And then maybe we can reassure them, like, maybe you don't want to wear your dirty underwear as a hat. But first, it's be like, I know it's really upsetting that you can't wear your dirty underwear as a hat. This one I can relate to. Like, how many times do people say good morning to you? It's so annoying, right? All right, I think that's it.
That was a wonderful way to end this workshop.
You should have had a teenager on that good morning one, though, not a child.
A teenager rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
So should
Did you say you're doing more on this tomorrow, Jane?
Tomorrow I'm going to teach what to do when emotions arise in your body, how to process them wisely with self, and I'll talk about brains, which everybody loves so much.
Brains.
Brains and what they do when you have emotions.
So that one is 10 a.m. or 1:30 in the afternoon?
That's at 10.
Okay.
That's the morning one. It's a workshop like this, and where we'll do stuff. If you guys want to join it, shoot an email and or sign up or something, and we'll get you the emails for it.
Go to my website and sign up, yeah.
Do we need to do homework for it?
You
Ahead
have
of
to
time?
print out one piece of paper
Okay.
and gather up some crayons. That's
Okay.
the homework. Okay. So anything else, Ted, or should I make a couple announcements?
Any final questions, comments?
No? Cool. So reminder, if you're uncomfortable with me.
Oh,
Sorry, I just want to complain that I really miss Julia's actual shift retreat announcement. This feels fake, and I'm angry about that.
Oh, how does it go usually?
I don't know when to come back from sit spot, what we're having for dinner, that stuff.
Oh, the way she does it is so much fun. I know. I'm so unfun compared to her. It's my inner critics comparing part. How many people have an inner critic that compares them? Yeah, don't get with Connie. I'm just saying. It'll go wild because she's so great. Okay.
What I really meant is I miss not seeing you in person.
Yes. So that's my first announcement is we do plan to have shift twice a year, and then everyone can come here in person and have extreme fun and fires and singing and deep work and do breath work. And then the people who came last time are still texting. There's like constant stream of text going, and they're like helping each other move and things like that. So it's really nice. You get really bonded. So we'll be aiming for, I think, October sometime to be doing shift here. And also I want to announce that we're starting a nonviolent communication group, which you can use insurance for if you have mental health insurance. So if you're interested in that, let me know. It's just how to speak in a way that gets your needs met without triggering the other person. It's the kind of thing that we should have learned in first grade, or eighth grade, or any grade, but instead we were learning calculus, which we used never. So I want to announce that. And it'll be with Mary Claire, who's my friend that I didn't go hiking with. She did not hurt her foot. That was me making it up. It is going to be virtual until, yes, it's going to be virtual. That's Kimberly asking.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll just send you an email to send me information on that. I like that nonviolent communication stuff.
Yeah.
I need it. I can have a little harsh times.
The harsh part. Cool. So is there anything I'm forgetting?
Well, if you guys want to do breath work with us, we're doing it tomorrow and Monday. And you can read about that at my website and sign up. And then actually, the following weekend, May 23rd, it's not a part of this Shift Still Happens retreat, but my wife and I are doing an online breathwork with IFS. So it's an integration of what we just did with breathwork and kind of how parts react to breathwork and how to help them as we go into the experience and recognize parts that the breathwork brings up. And so that'd be something to consider too. And we'll add you to our email list, and it's easy to get off it if you don't want to get those emails. So it's just easier to add you and then let you say no to them.
The breath work for the 23rd, is that on your website?
Yes.
Cool. It's been really nice hanging with you guys, talking about parts.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye,
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. TM.
All right.
Well, that worked.
Guess so.
We only ended 9 minutes late, and that's because everybody was just chit-chatting.
Yeah. So I will I'll just read a little bit more about breakout rooms, I guess. And maybe we could do practice later today.
Oh,
or
yeah.
tomorrow.
Sure. Just let me know. I might have the baby at some point, but I can mute myself and just do what you tell me to do.
All right, I've already got confused and forgot like what we'd be practicing, and it seems like we would need a bunch of people to log in to do the practice. But
yeah,
anyway, Janine and I will talk it through, and then
I'll use my phone, my computer, and then we have Julia's phone and her computer.
Okay.
I had a question for you. Oh, actually, I don't think I could do it on my phone. I have a question, which is, if you have an exile who's not exiled and is healed, it's not an exile and it's not a protector. What do you call it?
The healed exile.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those words that Dick might have done differently, if he could do it all over again, but it's too late. So, yeah, they're exiles, but they're no longer really exiled. All right. See you later.
Yeah. Hope this recording works. Please. Oh, I should have recorded